Hi, my name is Ashley Valley Weaver. If you don't know who I am, um, I'm a North American amateur League of Legends caster. I'm a content creator, though a little bit inconsistent, and I'm a collegiate esports player slash content creator slash coach. I have been in the esports scene for quite a while, as far as coaching across different games or casting inconsistently, and then this year casting more consistently. So that's a little bit of a quick backstory about me. Chances are, if you're here, you already know me, but if you don't know me, that's a little bit of a quick rundown. I'm re-recording this video because YouTube hates the audio from the last one, so hopefully this one ends up better. But I want to talk about the NA amateur scene for League of Legends and why I'm leaving the scene as a caster. I want to preface this with I don't have anything against a lot of the people in the scene, and I'm still going to be involved with NA Amateur. I'm still going to stay in contact with a lot of those people, but I don't think being a caster is for me and is going to take me in a direction that is beneficial to me going forward. So here are some of my reasons, because as I'm leaving, I want to not only give reasons as to why I'm personally leaving, but also bring to light those reasons and some other reasons as to why I think the amateur scene is in a rough and toxic spot. So I'm going to hop into that, and I'm going to go through 4 to 5 reasons with their own subpoints, but I want to start with community. The NA amateur scene is supposed to be this community of casters, of producers, right? And to a degree, it is, but it feels very cliquish. So when I joined, I didn't know almost anybody. I knew like 2 people, and neither of them at the time were really there whenever I would hop in voice chats or that sort of thing. So I didn't know anybody. And when it was a group of people, it felt very cliquish. I didn't know anybody. I felt like I didn't belong. I didn't know how to make connections. And even when I did start to make connections, it didn't feel like I was wanted or accepted. And that was for a couple of reasons. I felt unaccepted because whether it was unsaid or it was said, which I did receive a couple DMs about, being transgender made people not want to work with me and made them uncomfortable. And that's something I knew I would have to deal with and not be accepted for. And there are people that absolutely accepted me, and I appreciate them for that. But there are people that didn't, and they let me know about it. And there are people that didn't let me know about it and just kind of didn't say anything, but like secretly were not okay with me. And I was expecting that, right? I know what the expectation is coming in as a transgender person. But beyond that, I didn't feel accepted because I felt like people viewed me as a threat. I came in, and I think I'm a decent caster. Do I think I'm the best caster? No. I think I'm a good caster. And I think I came in with strong fundamentals that people weren't expecting, and that a lot of casters that I met felt threatened by competition. Not just my competition, but the competition of new and high potential casters coming into the scene in general. Because of this, it was hard to feel like I belonged and to want to be at community nights and involved with a lot of these groups and these people. And the problem is, if you're not involved with those things, you don't get connections. And if you don't get connections, chances are you don't get jobs. Connections get you jobs, and usually that's fine. But it goes a little bit further in this scene, whereas if the person knows you, you will get the job. If the person doesn't know you, sometimes you won't get the job, even if you're more qualified. Like, you could apply for the same job, and even if you're more qualified, you won't get the job because they don't know you. And also, too many people talk behind each other's backs in the community. I can have a conversation with 2 people in the Discord call, and one of them can leave, and the other person will be like, "Oh, that dude is so annoying," or this or that, right? And if they're talking about other people that way, they're probably talking about you that way, and that's not something I was super comfortable with. I know I have my complaints with certain casters, and I've expressed those, but I like to believe that I kept it to constructive and consistent criticism, of their ability and valid reasons why I was upset, and more of my own personal, I feel like I deserve this, but I just am kind of wallowing in my own self-pity, and less about they're annoying and tearing people down for no reason, because I didn't think they deserved that. Overall, there are good parts of this community. Rafa has made a fantastic Discord server with a lot of great people and creating a great community, but again, it's one of those things where if you can't be at community nights, if you can't be constantly playing with people, you won't feel accepted. And even if you are doing that, you may not feel accepted, but you definitely won't get as many job opportunities because you won't have the connections. And I am a college student. I don't have the time to make those connections. I have responsibilities beyond just my casting gigs. And for me, it was really hard, and it kind of pushed me out of job opportunities, I felt like. So there was that. That's my first point, right? This community isn't all bad, but those are some of the things that this community is struggling with and makes it toxic to come into and very difficult to feel like you can be a part of. I want to talk about competition then, because I talked a little bit about competition, but the desire to compete and to be the best can make you very jaded towards others. Like I said, there have been opportunities that I felt I deserved that I didn't get, and that made me feel kind of jaded towards people because they got the connection because they were known or they had been working for that company or whatever reason. Even though I felt like I was a better caster, because I was more of a relative unknown, or because I didn't have the same experience on my resume, I wasn't getting the opportunity. And that made me feel jaded towards other people because they're supposed to be your friends and you're supposed to be happy that they're getting the opportunity, but you're also upset that you didn't. And I know I felt this when Top 8 Scouting Grounds got announced for who was casting. I felt like I was better than some of the casters there. I wasn't the best caster there in the lineup, but I felt I was better as an overall caster than a decent portion of the casters that were picked up over me. And it was very upsetting to have that happen. And then later on, multiple other opportunities, I had people picked up over me that were far less qualified than me just because they were more well known in the scene as far as connections. They were around more for these community nights, etc. And I wasn't. And I've been straight up told that that was a reason why I didn't get picked up. And it's frustrating because you want to compete, you want to be the best, you want to put the work in, but then these things set you back and you don't feel like it's a fair competition. And I'm not just saying this happens only to me, I'm using my own personal experiences for this, but you become jaded towards other people, you become jaded towards the people that make these decisions, and it feels problematic because it feels like newer talent, not just me, I've seen it with other talent as well, gets passed over for connections / experience, even if they might be a better caster overall. And that's a problem because we're stagnating potential and we're going with metrics that are kind of irrelevant. And I understand a lot of business works this way, and people are going to be like, Ashley, you're just complaining about how all business works. It's always going to be that way. If you have the connections, you'll get the job. That's fair. But also, if you have connections with those people but less connections and you're still more qualified, it feels more ridiculous. It feels less like you have a connection that I don't, and more like they're just biased towards you, even though they know who I am. Using myself as an example again. But I've seen this with talent. There's so much talent in this scene. There's so many good talent that do get good opportunities, but there is talent that is getting passed up on for talent that, if I'm being honest, is kind of mediocre right now. That aren't pushing themselves, that aren't becoming better, that are just happy to be stagnated in the scene with the opportunities that they have. And that's upsetting because I think it makes it hard to want to compete. It frustrates the mentality of the caster. And it's even worse because, for my third point, those opportunities to climb, to get to Risen, to get to Cup, etc., are few and far between. it's rare that you'll get an opportunity or a shot like that for even those higher leagues and amateur, let alone that you'll get a shot like that for, Academy Rush or LCS. It's a pipe dream at that point, right? And I started to realize that when I feel like I was kind of at my peak of casting, I was getting passed up for people that, in my view, were worse than me. I was starting to realize that it was a pipe dream to be an LCS caster, because at the rate things were going, there were better casters ahead of me already in the amateur scene. I knew that. I accepted that because, again, there are some good casters that get the opportunity and they deserve it. I'm never going to deny that. They were ahead of me, and there were already a ton of LCS and Academy Rush casters ahead of me that, at the rate I was going, it would take me probably 4 to 5 years to get a shot at the LCS or the LEC or whatever, right? At actually professionally casting. It's just so unrealistic to find one of those few slots that might open up, and you have to spend so much time investing into a scene that feels toxic, that feels cliquish, that feels unaccepting, and that is going to kill your desire to climb, that is going to deny you jobs that you feel qualified for, or that is going to put you down and down and down, and is eventually going to put you into a box, all the while working for a community that also tears you down whenever you try to make fresh content, that is uber critical, that is also kind of ignored by the NA scene. And when it's not, they're not being ignored because some popular streamer is attacking them, or because you put out a piece of content and people disagree and they don't like what you're saying and you get attacked for it. There are so many toxic traits to this community, to this scene as a whole, whether it's through community, whether it's through competition, or it's through the League of Legends community as a whole, that it feels very, very unrewarding to be a part of, especially if you're trying to go pro, especially if that's your end goal, is to climb and grow pro and get better. If your end goal is, I really like supporting the amateur scene, this is what I'm passionate about, that's different. But if your end goal is to climb past the amateur scene, it feels like a toxic wasteland. I'm not gonna lie, it does. And I feel like I'm ragging a lot on the negatives of this scene, but these are the things that I've experienced and that I've seen and that need to be brought up, because if they're not, we're not going to have a conversation about it. We're not going to try and fix it, and it's just going to keep happening. There's very few people making fresh content because it's hard to make content ideas that are new and exciting, and even when you are making new and exciting content ideas, they're being torn down or they're being tossed into irrelevance because nobody's going to see them. No one wants to deal with amateur. It's just a constant scene of these people have the job opportunities, and if you're not them, if you're not on these particular top tier broadcasts, you're on lower tier amateur broadcasts that might get you opportunities eventually, might not, and you're just gonna kind of be stuck there. No one's making unique content except maybe Cup and now Risen because they got Smacks and Chilling Walk, etc. But even then, when they try to make something new and exciting that's unorthodox, it's called cringy and it's torn apart. We saw that with Cup during Scouting Grounds. When they do the tried and true, what we've seen before, people are like, this is good content. You're put into a box and you're not allowed to express creative freedom. You're not allowed to push any sort of boundary in this scene, it feels like. When you do, you will either be ignored or you will be attacked. And that's such a terrible feeling. Like, beyond it being a pipe dream and all these other things, it kills the mentality of, I can't climb. I can't make fresh and innovative content because it'll get torn down or ignored and it's useless. I can't do all these things because it's incredibly difficult to feel rewarded for making these things whatsoever, especially if I'm spending a lot of time on them every week. It's just frustrating and difficult overall. And my last point, I know I'm rushing through these because I want to make this a quick video, but is you get put in a box. I think a lot of casters get put in a box comparing themselves to other casters. You're an LS type, or you're a Frostgarian type, or you're a Captain Flowers type, right? That's one thing. But it's a totally different thing to get put in a box to the degree of, hey, you're a mentor type. You're a middling caster where you have solid overall well-rounded skills, but you're not good enough to be in those top leagues. But you're better than the newbies, so we're going to pair you with someone that's on their first broadcast, or some lesser experienced casters, so that they know what it's like to work with more experienced casters, more well-rounded casters, and then they can surpass you. You're kind of this middle teacher. It's almost like a teacher's assistant type of job, where you've taken the class before, so you can help them get through it, but once they get through the class, they're going to be the new teacher's assistant, or they're going to be the next big caster, etc. And that's kind of where I got put, and I don't want to be there. And I've been there for the last couple months. Even with Excellency Mid-League, I felt like I was still kind of put in that position. And overall, I don't like being put in a box. I don't feel like I have any creative freedom in this scene. I don't feel like any of the work I put into content is rewarding because of how much time and work I have to put into it alongside the other things I put time into. Casting doesn't feel rewarding because I know that no matter how good my casts are for this broadcast, at the rate I'm going and with the experiences I've had, I'm not going to climb into any of the higher echelons for a couple of years. And all in all, it feels incredibly difficult to be a part of this scene right now. I don't feel accepted, and I think there's a lot of people that probably feel the same way and just won't express it. This scene has a lot of toxicity, and that is problematic, to say the least. Those are my points. Those are my points about why the scene is toxic, and those are my points about why I'm leaving the scene. As far as casting goes, I want to say there are a bunch of people that I'm glad I met. There are a bunch of amazing people in this scene that are good people and that have helped me along the way. Not all of them are. Everybody in the scene is perfect, but there are some really good people. There are people that still support me to this day. There are people that support me every day on Twitter. Axeman, Jill, they're amazing. Jake Kelton for giving me opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. But there's also 4 people I really want to mention. First is Rafa for, like I said, he brings people together. He's made an incredible community. He's bold, he's an incredible caster, and he's trying to make a difference, and that I really appreciate. The second is Chilling Walk. Will and I went to school together for a semester, and while we don't always see eye to eye on things League related, he has taught me a lot about League of Legends, and he has frustrated me enough to keep learning and keep challenging myself at League of Legends. And he's also given me a perspective of just where I have to be considered a top tier amateur caster. The third is Cubby. Cubby did a VOD review with me, and not only was it really helpful as a VOD review, but it was also good to talk to him about the realisticness, the reality of trying to get to LCS and how difficult it is, and it kind of put things into perspective for me. So I really appreciate him in that. And he's also an incredible caster, and he's going to do great things. He's also working really hard with the collegiate scene, so I appreciate what he does greatly. And then the last is Smax, and I put Smax in there because, while Smax is an incredibly nice guy and I love him to death, the one thing Smax gave me was someone to try and surpass. Smax is an incredible caster, and every single time I watch him cast, I'm like, wow, I wish I could be at that level, or I wanted to be past that level. So he was always my inspiration to keep going, and the person I wanted to surpass. And while I know I'm not going to at this point, it was good to have that motivation. All in all, there are a lot of positives in this scene, but we need to start bringing to light the negatives and the toxicity that comes along with this scene. so that we can start to change and so that we can start to fix things. That's why I'm putting out this video. That's why I want to have this conversation. And that's where I'm going to leave you. If you like the video, like it. If you disagree with me or you want to start a conversation, that's what this is for. I want to start an open forum conversation. So leave a comment or at me on Twitter, whatever. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.